My husband cheated with his assistant and confessed at his surprise 40th birthday party in front of 50 guests and his own mother. But I smashed the cake in his face and then destroyed his career with an anonymous email he never saw coming. I'm 38 years old. I've been out of work for 4 years because Benjamin convinced me to stay home. And what happened 7 months ago at his 40th birthday party basically destroyed everything I believed about my marriage. You know, those things you see in movies or read about online and think, that would never happen to me. Well, it happened to me, and in the most humiliating way possible. I guess I should start from the beginning, when I met Benjamin like 12 years ago at a marketing conference. I worked for a pretty big agency. He was a regional manager at a tech company, and we connected immediately. He was super charismatic, ambitious, had that energy that makes you feel like anything is possible, you know? We got married 3 years later, and the first few years were good, or at least I thought so. When we hit our 4th anniversary, Benjamin got a major promotion, like director of sales for the entire northern region, and he suggested I quit my job so we could focus on his career and eventually have kids. Truth is, I was kind of tired of the agency stress. I was working like 60 hours a week, so I agreed. Big mistake. But well, looking back, everything seems obvious. The thing is, I became a full-time housewife, which isn't bad if it's what you want, but I started feeling like I was losing my identity. You know what I mean? Benjamin kept coming home later and later from work, always with excuses about important meetings or client dinners, and I'd spend the day organizing the house, preparing elaborate dinners that he barely touched because he'd already eaten something at the office. Like a year ago, he started mentioning Samantha, his new executive assistant or account coordinator or something. I don't know exactly what title she had, but basically she worked directly with him. At first, I didn't think much of it. Like, oh, that's nice, you have help. But then he started mentioning her constantly. Samantha suggested this. Samantha organized that. Samantha has brilliant ideas. I'd joke with him saying he sounded like he had a wife at work, and he'd laugh and say basically yes, that she was his work wife. I should have seen it coming. Seriously. All the signs were there, but I was like in denial or something. So Benjamin was turning 40 inches March, and I wanted to do something special because, I don't know. I guess I thought if I organized an incredible party and showed him how much I loved him, maybe he'd start paying attention to me again like before. I literally spent 2 months planning this thing. I talked to his mom, Judith, who owns the house where we lived. Benjamin never bought his own house. We lived in a property his mother rented to us super cheap. And she was super excited about the surprise party idea. I invited all his family, his college friends, some work colleagues, like 50 people total. I hired a catering service, decorated the entire house with photos of him from childhood to now, got a 3-tier cake in his favorite flavor, chocolate raspberry, and basically spent like $3,000 of my personal savings on this party. The plan was he'd think we were going out to dinner alone. I'd tell him we needed to stop by the house first to pick something up. And boom. Surprise. The day came. It was a Saturday in March, and I was super nervous, but excited. Everyone arrived around 6 in the evening. The house was full of people, lights off, everyone hidden and silent. Judith was next to me in the living room. My best friend Karen was recording everything on her phone, and I had this knot in my stomach that I thought was just anxiety about the surprise. Benjamin had texted me around 5 saying he was going to be a bit late from the office, that he had to finish something urgent, and I told him no problem, I'd wait for him. Around 6:30 we heard his car arrive, and everyone got into position. The door opens. I'm ready to yell surprise with everyone else, and then I see them. Benjamin walks in kissing someone, like not a casual kiss but a passionate movie kiss, and when they finally separate I see it's a woman around 30 years old, long brown hair, tight red dress. Karen keeps recording out of pure shock. I think, nobody yells surprise. We're all literally frozen. And Benjamin and this woman haven't noticed. The house is full of people because they're too busy making out. Judith is the first to react and turns on the lights. Benjamin and the woman separate abruptly, and I can see his face go from confusion to absolute panic in like 2 seconds. The room is in total silence, all those 50 people staring at them, and I can't move. I literally feel like my legs are cement. Benjamin looks at me and says my name, like whispered, and I finally find my voice and tell him surprise, but obviously without any emotion, like a robot. The woman, who turns out to be Samantha, obviously, turns red as a tomato and tries to hide behind Benjamin, and he's standing there, not knowing what to do. My brain is processing everything in slow motion. Like I see his brother with his mouth open, his best friend shaking his head, Judith with her hands on her face, and I still can't move. Then Benjamin, and I still don't know what the hell he was thinking, decides this is the perfect moment to confess. He raises his hands like asking for attention. Seriously? And says, and I swear this is verbatim, "Look, I know this isn't ideal, but everyone's here, so I guess it's a good time to be honest." He proceeds to tell all of us, everyone, that he and Samantha have been dating for the last 6 months. That at first it was just something physical, but he's falling in love with her, and that he was going to ask me for a divorce after his birthday. Samantha is literally trying to leave the house, but Benjamin grabs her arm and pulls her toward him, saying something like, "Don't hide. Love. This had to happen eventually. Love." He called her love in front of me, in front of everyone. I don't know what happened to me in that moment. Like something inside me just broke or exploded. I don't know. But suddenly I was walking toward the table where the cake was. That 3-tier cake that had cost me 3,000 pesos and taken hours to design with the bakery. And I grabbed it. Everyone's staring at me. Nobody says anything. And I walk straight toward Benjamin with this huge cake in my hands. He sees me coming and starts to say something like, "Look, we can talk about this like adults." And I slam the cake in his face with all my strength. Chocolate and raspberry everywhere, on his suit that I know cost him like $1,000, in his hair, even on the glasses he wears sometimes. There's a second of silence and then someone starts clapping. I think it was Benjamin's brother. And suddenly several people are clapping and others are like shocked. Benjamin is standing there wiping his face, and Samantha has the audacity to tell me, "What's wrong with you? Are you crazy?" And that's when I completely lost control. I went after her, grabbed her arm, and dragged her outside the house while she screamed. Outside, I yelled everything at her, like things I didn't even know I could say. And she yells back at me that Benjamin never really loved me, that I was boring and that he needed someone who understood him professionally. I slapped her. Yes, I admit it. I hit her, and I don't regret it. She grabbed her face and started crying. And right then, Benjamin comes running out, pushes me, literally pushes me, and puts himself between Samantha and me. He tells me to calm down, that I'm acting like a crazy person, and that we're getting divorced and I'm going to have to move out of the house because he can't live with someone so unstable. That's when Judith, his own mother, comes out and tells him, "This is my house, Benjamin, and if anyone's moving out, it's going to be you." Benjamin looks at her like she betrayed him, and tells her she can't be serious, that he's her son. Judith, who's like 70 years old but is a super strong-willed woman, tells him he may be her son, but what he did is unforgivable, and she's not going to let him kick out his daughter-in-law. Benjamin laughs, like a horrible sarcastic laugh, and says, "Perfect, I'm leaving. I don't need this," grabs Samantha's hand and they leave, just like that. They left in his car and left me there with all the guests still inside the house. The party obviously ended. Everyone started leaving after giving me awkward hugs and saying things like, "I'm so sorry," or "You're so strong." Karen and Judith stayed with me all night, helping me clean up the mess, literally and figuratively. The next few days were like a fog. Benjamin didn't come back to the house. He sent me messages saying he was staying at a hotel with Samantha, obviously, and that he was going to send someone to pick up his things. Judith came to see me like on the 3rd day and told me something that changed. Everything. She told me the house was in her name, that she had bought it like 20 years ago when Benjamin was still young, and that he had never contributed to the mortgage or anything. We basically lived there for free or paying a symbolic rent of like $200 a month. She offered me a deal. I could stay there paying real rent like $800 monthly, which was super reasonable for the area, and she was going to talk to her son so he wouldn't bother me. I agreed immediately, and literally that same day we signed a formal lease agreement. Judith is a blessing. Seriously, I don't know what I would have done without her. So I started planning my revenge. Because yes, I was going to get revenge. Why not? This guy humiliated me in front of 50 people, cheated on me for months, and on top of that ordered me to get out of the house. First, I went to the bank and withdrew all the money from our joint account, like $15,000 that were basically my savings from when I worked plus some he put in for expenses. I opened my own account at another bank and put everything there. Then I hired a locksmith and changed all the locks in the house. I installed security cameras outside, those ones you can see from your phone, and I packed all of Benjamin's things in boxes. Everything. His clothes, his shoes, his stupid golf trophies, his books, his video games, absolutely everything. I put the boxes on the front porch, covered with a tarp because it was threatening to rain. Benjamin was on a business trip, or so he said. Who knows where he really was? For like a week, and I planned for all this to happen right on the day he was coming back. That day, he arrived around 7 at night. I saw him on the security cameras trying to open the door with his key. Confused when it didn't work. He started ringing the doorbell and yelling my name, saying to open the door, that we needed to talk like adults. I was inside watching everything from my phone, like eating popcorn and enjoying the show. After like 20 minutes of yelling, he finally saw the boxes on the porch. I watched him open one, then another, and then he took out his phone and called me. I didn't answer. He sent me like 30 messages, starting with things like, "This is ridiculous," and ending with threats to call the police. I sent him one message. "The house is your mother's. She rented it to me. You don't live here. If you don't pick up your things in 24 hours, I'm going to donate them." He blocked me after that. The next day, I hired a lawyer, a woman named Patricia, who Karen had recommended and who was known for being super aggressive in divorce cases. I told her the whole story, showed her the video Karen had recorded of Benjamin arriving with Samantha. Yes, we had it on video complete. And she basically rubbed her hands together and said, "We're going to destroy him." We filed divorce papers asking for alimony because I had left my career for him and now had no income. Benjamin got furious. Sent me messages from Samantha's number, because I had him blocked, saying I didn't deserve a penny, that he had supported me for 4 years, and that was enough. Patricia said that actually helped us because he was admitting he was the provider and I had depended on him financially. But I didn't stop there. I mean, I was already in full revenge mode. I knew Benjamin's relationship with Samantha technically violated the policies of the company where they worked because he was her direct superior. I searched online everything about the company, found the email of the HR department and the CEO, and sent them a super detailed email explaining the whole situation. I attached the video, censored the guests' faces, but Benjamin and Samantha were clearly visible. Copies of messages I had found on an old iPad that Benjamin had left, and that was still synced with his iCloud. Yes, it was like spying, but in my defense, he had destroyed my life and basically built a complete case about how this relationship had started when she was directly under his supervision. I sent the email on a Tuesday morning and waited. The Friday of that same week, Benjamin called me from an unknown number, hysterical. He yelled at me, what had I done, that they had just fired him, that I had ruined his life. Apparently, HR had launched an immediate investigation. They had interviewed several employees who confirmed that Benjamin and Samantha had been acting inappropriately at the office for months. Long lunches, closed doors, unnecessary business trips together, and the company decided it was a legal risk to keep him. They fired him for violating the code of ethics and for creating a hostile work environment. No severance or anything. Samantha wasn't fired, but they transferred her to another area and she was basically marked as the one who had an affair with her boss. I told Benjamin he deserved it. That maybe he should have thought about the consequences before, publicly humiliating me, and I hung up. He blocked me again, but I didn't care anymore. The divorce process took like 4 months because Benjamin resisted everything, especially paying alimony. His argument was that I could get a job, that I didn't have kids to take care of, that 4 years wasn't enough time to justify alimony. Patricia counter-argued that I had left an established career at his request, that I had been a housewife for 4 years, losing experience and professional contacts, and that I needed time to reintegrate into the job market. The judge agreed with us. Benjamin had to agree to pay me $1,500 monthly for 3 years, plus split the remaining savings, which weren't much, because he had apparently spent a ton on Samantha, like trips and gifts. I also had to return the $15,000 I took from the joint account, but honestly, it was worth having done it at the time. During all this time, I was like processing everything, going to therapy twice a week, crying a lot, but also feeling strangely liberated. Judith came to visit me often, brought me food, and we'd sit and watch movies. She told me Benjamin had gone to see her, asking for financial help because he couldn't pay the rent at the motel where he was staying with Samantha. You think it was one of those cheap roadside motels, like $50 a night. And she had told him no, that he had to learn to live with the consequences of his actions. Apparently, Benjamin got a job at another company but earning like half of what he earned before. And Samantha was still at the same company but being totally ignored by everyone. Like nobody wanted to associate with her after the scandal. The divorce was finally finalized in July, like 5 months after the party from hell. I signed the papers with Patricia in her office. We had a glass of wine to celebrate. She had a bottle saved for these occasions. And I went home feeling weird. On one hand, I was happy it was all over. But on the other hand, it was like, wow, 12 years of my life with this person, and that's how it ended. Karen convinced me to take a solo vacation, something I had never done, so I booked a trip to Cancun for a week. It was amazing, honestly. Being alone on a beach without having to worry about anyone else, eating whatever I wanted whenever I wanted, sleeping late. I think I needed that to reset my brain. When I came back from Cancun, I started looking for work, but nothing too heavy yet because I had the alimony and my expenses were low. I got a part-time job at a local art gallery, something super different from what I did before, but that I liked. The gallery owner is a guy around 60 years old, super laid back, who basically hired me because he liked me and needed help with social media and organizing events. I work 20 hours a week, earn enough to supplement the alimony, and it gives me time to think about what I really want to do with my life. I also started dating again. Nothing serious, like Tinder and Bumble, some dates here and there. I'm not ready for something serious, but it's nice to meet people. Like a month ago, I ran into a former coworker of Benjamin's at the supermarket, and we started chatting. She told me Samantha is still working at the company, but nobody takes her seriously, that she basically became the office pariah. Apparently, she and Benjamin are still together, living in a small apartment on the cheap side of town, and she has to pay most of the bills because Benjamin's new job pays very little. She also told me Benjamin is trying to reduce the alimony he pays me, claiming financial hardship, but Patricia already warned me about that and says it's very hard for him to get it. The former coworker told me I looked really good, that you could tell I was better off without him. And honestly, I think she's right. 2 weeks ago, I went to dinner with Judith, something we do once a month now. She told me Benjamin finally went to visit her after months of not talking to her, asking for forgiveness and saying he had made a terrible mistake. She told him she could forgive him eventually, but that didn't mean she was going to help him financially or kick me out of the house. Benjamin apparently cried, really cried, saying his life was a mess and that Samantha wasn't what he thought she was. Judith looked at me and said, "See? Karma." And we both laughed. I don't feel satisfaction from his suffering exactly, but I don't feel pity either. Now I'm here, 7 months after the worst surprise party in history, living alone in a nice house, working at something I like even if it's part-time, dating a 35-year-old guy I met at an art exhibition who for now is fine to hang out with, going to therapy and feeling better and better. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. If I'm going back to my original professional field or if I'm going to stay in this art thing. If I'm going to find someone or be alone for a longer time. And honestly, it's okay not to know. What I do know is I don't regret anything I did after that night. Throwing the cake in his face? 0 regrets. Changing the locks and putting his stuff out? I'd do the same thing again. Sending that email to his work? Probably the most satisfying thing I've ever done in my life. Some people have told me I went too far, that I should have been more mature about it. But honestly, after what he did to me in front of all those people, I think he deserved everything that happened to him and more.